Welcome to the Phantom Zone.
I try to join the X-Men, but I think they're maybe racist. Just because I'm human, they don't want my help. It seems it doesn't really matter if your superpowers firing through the belt. I tried to join the Justice League, but Batman was a douche to me. And Black Canary wouldn't tell me hi. And Classic Man just threw a middle finger that was 30 stories high. I got a message from the great Avengers. They offered me a membership, but I did not accept.
Hello, welcome to And Now Comics. We have a full house today. I am Lou Gonzalez. Joining me is Connor Irving.
You say run. I barely know her.
Ryan Fretz.
Hello.
John Scott.
Insert anime intro music here.
John Seiler.
I'm sorry to say this is my last show because I've actually just been hired to replace Dan DiDon't.
Oh, nice. So happy for you, man.
All right, so we're transitioning into that already, huh?
It's funny. It's funny because I originally had to be like Bob Iger, and then the Dan DiDon't thing popped up. I'm like, well, I guess I got a new intro.
Oh, yeah, wait, shit, that happened too.
Yeah, but the thing, though, I guess let's start with that one, because, like, he stepped aside, not down, because he's still there for another, like, until 2021. Yeah.
But I mean, like, I don't know. I remember distinctly, like, Marvel, or, like, the Disney era being very different before Bob Iger took over. Like, I think people kind of also, like, forget, like, how dire it was for Disney, like, and the towards the end of, like, the Eisner era. So to have Bob Iger basically step down, like, you know, before maybe a big possible, I mean, and that to say, like, you know, there have been rumors for about a year that he was going to step down, but I think, like, the timing of their big, huge push into Chinese market with Mulan is about to come out, and with the entire country being in lockdown because of a virus, I think that movie may not be making the money that they hope.
Yeah, which the replacement is Bob, is it Cutter? I think is his name. And I'm trying to remember, he is the new guy, ran the theme park stuff. Was it Perlmutter, the other guy that ran theme park stuff?
You're thinking about...
Yeah, I'm looking at him right now. Who it is the replacement?
It's Bob something. It's like Cutter or
Chapek.
Chapek. Okay, I wasn't close. All right, Bob Chapek. But Bob Chapek was the head of, like, theme park stuff. Wasn't Perlmutter or something the head of theme park stuff previously? And he was terrible at running the TV side.
Are you talking about before he became the head of Marvel?
Yeah, well, he was like the head of Marvel TV. Perlmutter. Wasn't he a
Perlmutter was
theme park
like
guy too?
No, he's a Toy Biz guy.
But maybe it was what's his name himself? Bob Iger was the theme park guy. I'm trying to remember. Was somebody high up in Marvel, or was it another company? I can't remember. Oh, maybe it was Universal. Was like the head of their theme parks at one point, and then became the CEO. This is very interesting stuff. So I don't remember what it was, but it's an interesting.
But yeah, Ike was board of the directors for Marvel in like '93, and then became chairman in '95, and then and he was also the co-owner of Toy Biz. So like when Marvel went out of business for bankruptcy, he was like put in as vice chairman.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But I don't think I don't think he was a theme park guy.
There was like another big CEO, like that was like a former theme park guy, and I can't remember the name of the guy. But I do think it's interesting to choose a theme park guy. I think that says more to me that the other aspects of the company are kind of self-sufficient. Like Marvel is especially the Marvel films, is just like its own thing, and like Feige's got like his own little fiefdom, like kingdom, and he reports directly to basically like the shareholders at this point. So I don't know how much like film wise and like the comic book divisions and stuff like that the CEO actually has input on.
I mean, Iger is the reason why they bought Star Wars, and they're the reason why they bought Marvel.
He's the reason why Disney is Disney now.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's a reason why Iger's tenure was super strong at first, and then just kind of petered out over time because it's like very bad business decisions, and kind of like also just like public spats with DreamWorks, like kind of just ruined a lot of the reputation of Disney in the late 90s. And you know, it was Iger making these really smart decisions and really smart buying acquisitions that like kind of like has them built to a point where it's like they're too big to fail. But then again, it's like, you know, who knows? You know, it's like you can have like one bad boss that just kind of ruins everything.
Yeah, I think for the film division makes so much money, like the film, you know, propping up the toys and stuff makes so much money for them. I don't know, like it would have to be like some really like several giant bombs in a row to really hurt them.
Yeah,
but like
I mean, they got one movie every year that does super badly, and
yeah,
they still make like $3 billion a year.
oh well, more than that, like just on the
Yeah.
movies, yeah. So, but like I mean, like I feel like the things that bomb for them are like the weird kids movies that like don't like. What was the one that came out this past week? Call of the Wild, like lost to Sonic. And I was like, why is that even a movie right now?
But Call of the Wild was also like an old holdover of the 20th Century Fox deal. And
Oh,
so
was it really?
Yeah, so they just like kind of put, you know, they just put it out. That movie also cost $150 million, and you know it did better than expected.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, they had to do a lot of CG. They had to make that CGI dog.
The dog.
Yeah, Call of the Wild is a super expensive movie. And it still kind of like did better than what they, you know, were projecting it to do.
Yeah, because it's a weird ass thing to put out in 2020. But yeah, I did not realize that was originally a Fox property. I thought it was because that kind of fits that weird, goofy side of Disney where they try to put out those live action things every once in a while.
You know, like a Pete's Dragon or a Wrinkle in Time or
oh god, talk about a bomb.
Yeah, you know, it's like it happens everywhere. It's and also it's just usually like because one of their films cannibalizes the other film, and it's like, oh hey, cool, whatever. It's like, oh, Wrinkle in Time didn't do well. Like, well, Captain Marvel made $1 billion, so who cares?
Yeah. I guess their idea at the time was like, oh, there's different audiences, and really it's like it's not like the Marvel movies are just like everybody. So like if you put them near any other film, they'll just cannibalize them. I don't know. I agree that it's like mostly like a ship that can't like it can't really fail. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of changes happen. But I do think it, like you said, it has a lot to do with the Chinese market, and because one of the big things was they built a Disney theme park in China, and I guess that was this guy's like spearheading it. So that's why he may have gotten this job.
Watch the documentary they put out, Imagineering, and there's like a whole section he did on how they did that, how it came about.
So he probably has very good relations with China and the Chinese government. So that's probably a big chunk of like why him.
Is it already open?
It's probably not open right now.
Open.
It is open. Yeah.
It's closed temporarily for 2 months.
Yeah, 2 months. Okay. So yeah, let's move on. I would say like to kind of stick with the Marvel like Disney thing. Let's jump to Star Wars. They announced that they are doing a new massive story set 200 years before the Skywalker saga. So that's after the Old Republic. So it's going to be one is called The Test of Courage, which is a middle grade book, a Marvel series called The High Republic, a novel called Into the Dark, and a IDW comic series called The High Republic Adventures. So these 5 stories are going to like intertwine with each other to like build this specific era. Sorry, I was very distracted by somebody's has this like on speaker or something.
Just want to know, will they sing like a bird?
Ignore that was me. My thing went off accidentally. That's not bad.
Yeah.
I was sorry. It's all right. I was just like super distracted by it. It's fine.
No, I apologize. That's my fault.
No, I do think this is interesting. I'm glad to see like more stories going outside of the Skywalker. Like, what do we call that era? It's just like the mainline era.
Yeah, I've always kind of referred to it as like George, the Lucas era.
Yeah. So like the first novel that's kicking it off is Light of the Jedi, which is authored by the guy who wrote Star Wars Darth Vader, which I wonder if that's the comic. Because if it is, that book was really good.
That book was great.
Yeah.
No, some of the best writers are currently doing stuff for this, so I'm very excited. like I've read a lot of the Star Wars books over the past couple years, and they've been really good. Some of the people inside are like in that group are some of the best writers, and I think like Filoni has his fingers in there somewhere potentially for animated series based around.
Yeah, which
Hopefully
there's
it's
like,
good.
yeah,
I will
there's
say I will like to have. Speaking of animated series, I do want to see an animated series based off this line. Should it be a little more successful?
yeah, that would be interesting, especially with like the Clone Wars has its last season now coming out, so there really isn't a animated Star Wars on the horizon, which they've all kind of carried a bit of weight over the years. So it'd be interesting to see them jump into a different era now that we've kind of closing the door on this Lucas era.
I will say though, we also have a couple of other things we have here. Well, first off, we have the writers who are involved in the writers' room, I guess we could say. So you have Kavan Scott, who did IDW Star Wars Adventures, Claudia Gray, Daniel Jose Older, who did Last Shot Born in the Storm, Charles Sue, who did Rise of Kylo Ren's story. There's also Viz Media is supposed to be involved with the publishing, so we might be getting some Star Wars manga out of this.
Oh, that's a smart move.
It'd be nice if they also got Japanese artists and writers to do Star Wars story. But I don't know. I doubt it.
I'm sure it's probably something down the like. I'm guessing like a lot of this stuff is like early, and with the way Star Wars is treated now, like they have to take like small steps to avoid like shitheads on the internet about everything because people care so much about like the very tiny percentage.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is going to be DC from now until forever. But I mean, like this has also been Star Wars since 1999, so I'm not. It's just always been here. I feel.
Yeah, well, it's part of the internet thing. Yeah. So you just dropped in a couple of stories. The first one sounds really interesting because it's done by the people who did what you call Frozen. So they're making The Prince and the Dressmaker.
Yeah, so The Prince and the Dressmaker was a book I really loved that came out last year from Jen Wang, who did like another book I really love called Coco Be Good years ago. But Prince and the Dressmaker is basically about this girl who makes dresses for the prince, who just like loves wearing dresses, and it's like this really great like self-contained story. It won like Eisner last year for best theme publication, and also best artist writer. And yeah, it looks like that the graphic novel has been acquired by Universal and Kristen Anderson Lopez and Bobby Lopez, the team behind the scores for Frozen, Coco, and Frozen 2. With
I think they also wrote Frozen as well.
No, they didn't.
Did it? I was just looking at the IMDb and it gave them writers credit.
But playwright Amy Herzog and producer Matt Platt will be also attached to it. So, I think this book is really cool. I think like the subject matter is like really interesting, and it's definitely something that will be kind of interesting to see like how they adapted for film, and if they keep it like the exact way that it's intended within the book. Because it's not like it's just like he just likes wearing dresses. It's like he likes how it feels and it makes him feel pretty. It's like it's not like it's not really playing with much other than that. And she like kind of like slowly like developed feelings for her, and he kind of develops feelings for her. So yeah, I think it'll be fun to see like if they can like kind of like really stick the landing for.
Well, and definitely an interesting idea, and like that's some great talent they have there. So
I will say, I think they succeeded more with Frozen 2 than Frozen 1 in terms of songs. That is just me, though.
I have not seen Frozen 2 yet, but I would say I can't think of anything beating Coco.
I actually really hate the songs in Frozen 2.
Oh, I kind of really enjoy them.
I like there's that one song that big Kristoff song that's like maybe like one of the worst Disney songs I've heard in a long time.
Oh, okay, I wouldn't go that far. Have you seen Home on the Range?
Well, no, I said in a long time. That movie came out in like 2001.
That's fair. I kind of liked the songs. I thought they were more... Also because I worked in a movie theater when Frozen 1 came out.
Yeah.
So I really, really hate this. Not hate. I don't like the songs in Frozen 1.
I just think Frozen 2 is also just a bad movie. Like I don't think the songs really kind of like line up with the story of
Oh, I was kind of way more
the
invested in the
movie.
story, and I like the jokes more, and I liked everything a lot more.
Yeah, I also just think it's like they have the big Elsa song and it just feels like Let It Go 2, but it doesn't have like I don't know.
I think it's a
I
better
I
song
don't
than Let It Go.
I don't necessarily think that Frozen 2 needs to do like give her a girlfriend, even though they should, because it makes like I don't know. I feel like it just kind of makes logical sense at this point, you know. But they won't because this is still the company that like will only have gay characters as long as they can like edit them out in like a 2-second chunk. But it's
Like,
just
what was it? What was it? That Onward story that came out this week?
I don't even know,
What?
man. That the cop is gay, and it's like, oh great, you gave us a gay character, but it's a cop. Thanks, guys.
Oh,
That's so
I was talking
funny.
about how it's like this is the fourth time they've been like, we have a gay character. The gay character's like, it's not even called that much attention to, and they're making a big stink out of it.
Yeah, and that character will probably just be a nothing character in the film, much like the fool in Beauty and the Beast. But I actually now, so Frozen 2 has the exact same problem that I have with Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet, where
Also, I did not see that.
the entire like Frozen and Wreck-It Ralph have like this kind of big huge like theme in the film that like kind of leads up to like this big kind of like whatever the destination of the end of the film is, where like Wreck-It Ralph like figures out
yourself.
that be yourself, it's okay to stay, it's like you know he goes back to being the villain and he's appreciated by the people there and whatever, and then Wreck-It Ralph 2 is basically like, oh, but Vanellope can go to her own game because she doesn't fit within this game, but it's okay for her. She can go off and be in like some fucking murder world.
Grand
driving.
Theft Auto.
Yeah, and it's like, but it's good for her to like expand her horizons, but it's not good for Wreck-It Ralph. And I'm like, okay, like
She went
Frozen,
turbo. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, wasn't there a whole plot point in the last film about doing this, and this is bad? And I feel like Frozen 2 has like that exact same problem, where it's like Frozen's all about like family and like all this other shit, and then Frozen 2 is like, oh, but like, what if I do things by myself and not really like learn from the lessons of the first one? And I hate stuff like that.
Here's the problem, though, is that in the past, those movies would have just gone straight to like VHS or DVD.
Yes.
And now
Yeah.
they're getting theatrical releases.
Yeah, and like from what it sounds like, at least from like the the channels like I follow, there wasn't very long time, like there wasn't a huge amount of time for the Frozen 2 script to be done, and to me, when you're watching it, it feels like it. It feels like it's a movie that's very at the seat of its pants, trying to figure out like kind of like where to put these characters and like oh, we gotta have these Olaf parts, and there's too much Olaf in Frozen 2.
Yeah, well, I think it's also the problem was like
See,
the
I have a
first
hard
one.
time believing they didn't have enough time to work on the Frozen script, considering they had 6 years.
Well, I was gonna say in the first one they had to rewrite the entire script after they made the song. So
Yeah, also
But-
that.
So like yeah, that was never like the movie that it was originally intended to be, for the better. But yeah, not to like get to push us too far, but like I want to jump to some of these other stories. So the Umbrella Academy story is really interesting, and if it gives us a look at like how those characters became like their adult selves, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so far they've only got the Klaus one announced here. But yeah, I'm on the same boat. I'm gonna read this regardless. I love Umbrella
Yeah.
Academy. I just finished the
Yeah.
newest one.
That was
Wow,
kind
I
of
suppose.
always my issue with the book, was that like you just kind of like they're kids, now they're adults. I was like, well, I kind of want to know the in between.
I mean, so this one isn't even like about them being kids. So, from the synopsis, it'll be called "You Look Like Death: Tales of the Umbrella Academy." It'll be a 6-issue mini, written by Gerard Way, Sean Simon, illustrated by Ian J. Colbert.
Oh, what I
And-
mean, I don't mean by them being kids. I mean like after leaving, like how do they go from like what they were when they left to the people we see in Umbrella Academy at the jump.
So this one's just basically about the Seance, aka Klaus, aka 4, and it's set a decade prior to the beginnings of the first Umbrella Academy miniseries. Yeah, and it's kind of about it. I think it's like if you're gonna do like any kind of like miniseries about any of these characters, like Klaus is kind of like the one like least about. Like about Spaceman being on the moon, kind of like why he's there. About the rumor and her failed marriage. Like it's like you could do like a Kraken series, but I just feel like they just be dark Nightwing.
Yeah, I was gonna say not quite Batman.
Yeah. And there's not really kind of like stuff you can do with like Vanya, because that's kind of like her purpose is that she doesn't really do a whole lot. But the one thing I really did, the one thing I did appreciate about the show that they didn't really do in the books was that they had Klaus be like a conduit to talk to the horror, because the horror is the horror is not a character really in the book. It's just basically it's like they were teenagers, and then as they were teenagers, the horror died, and that's about it.
Yeah, they're just like, he died. We never know why. I don't think they ever explain why.
I just assume the horror went out of control and like ate himself or something.
Well, maybe.
I still haven't read the book, so
yeah. In the show, I would say that doesn't seem like the case. It seems more like he went to go do something, and the fact that he was like left alone is what got him killed. Because the rest of the team just like split up, and he was the only. Because I feel like wasn't he the only one that continued to do stuff?
No, Kraken also does.
Kraken did,
and technically Space Boy also does.
Oh yeah, because that's how he gets like super jacked up.
Well, yeah he gets all fucked.
But yeah, like I mean, like as a podcast, we're like split. Where like one of us like really likes the books and not the show, and one of us really likes the show, but not really the book. So
I like the books. I just like the show better.
Yeah, and I like the books more.
Yeah. So do we want to jump to the big story of the week?
I feel like we should.
So Dan DiDio, the guy we've shit on endlessly, is gone from DC, or should I say all of Warner Brothers, period.
Dan DiDon't come back to the studio.
I feel like this is where the part where the Munchkins come out and they start singing Ding Dong, the Wicked Witch, the Wicked Witch, the Wicked Witch.
I don't really know much about this. Why is he so hated?
So, like, before we kind of even get into that, it like, when I first, like, heard the news, it was, like, kind of like a big sigh of relief, and then, you kind of start seeing, like, Scott Snyder and Tom King and Gail Simone and, like, all these, people who've like worked with DC for like so long and like kind of worked in other areas, and them just kind of like talking about their experiences with him, how he gets like a lot of like unnecessary hate towards things that are like completely out of his control. And I kind of like started like really kind of thinking about it, and then like the only person who like was like very uproarious in his applause about him, Dan being gone, was Rob Liefeld. And that's really, and that's like kind of really like the moment where I'm just like,
Rob Liefeld every morning takes a big dive in his vault full of cocaine, Scrooge McDuck style.
But like,
it's a vault full of pouches full.
God,
of
imagine how great would that be?
But
he's probably having a great time.
But I kind of like saw that, and it was like one of those kind of like real like small moments where I'm like, am I the bad guy in thinking?
I think it's more like people don't want to burn bridges, and Liefeld like doesn't really have bridges around anymore, so he doesn't give a fuck.
But I mean, like, also Scott was like, me and him like fought like very vehemently about like things we want to do in books, and like and I still respect the guy, and but I have they announced like who's kind of like replacing him, or if anyone's replacing him?
No, currently it's just that Jim Lee is just like, he was already like they were like kind of co-publishers, and now he's just like the sole publisher for the moment.
Yeah, and man, I don't know about that, man.
Yeah, but like that's the problem. Is like do you get someone that was like a comics guy to run like to be the publisher, or do you need to get like a business guy? Because the problems are besides, like I would say the biggest problem DC's had over his tenure is one like cancellations and things not showing up on time, which is like the death knell for comic stuff. Is shit not showing up on time.
Doomsday Clock.
Someone rang.
But like also it's just like Doomsday Clock is yeah, but
Yeah.
I think the bigger problem,
Well, it's
because it's like going for like about a decade now. Like let's look at DC.
well,
I think
going
like
to the decade, I think, speaks to what this all kind of ended with, which was the 5G thing, which is let's keep rebooting everything every 4 years.
yeah, and I think like that's like when you kind of like look at like let's. I feel like this kind of all starts with identity crisis, and just like kind of going forward from there, and just like having like a direction, but not really a direction, and
Well, and the direction that you get is weird. It's like, which Connor, like one of the things we shit on him for was like he has this hard on for the old sidekicks, which kind of culminated in Identity Crisis in many ways.
I think that's also a Jeff Johns thing, honestly.
Oh, I think it's both 100%. Of them. But I think DiDio's been outspoken about how he doesn't like those characters.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's like, there's been like an ongoing rumor, Identity Crisis or Infinite Crisis, where he's just wanted to kill Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
And,
cool.
and he almost did in
Forever
Evil.
Well, yeah, and he essentially did in the Nightwing book.
Yeah.
When he made, which he's back to being Dick again, like from the last issue, I believe.
I'm glad.
Yeah, but like, and then what he did, like so Wally West is back, but then they like do the Identity Crisis thing, which Roy is then dead again, and all these other characters, which some of them are on the TV shows. I actually think one of the things that like kind of popped up to me was like the kind of creator backlash from the Poison Ivy thing. I feel like that might have had a little bit to do with this too, like as bad PR in 2020.
Yeah, well, it's funny because like I like brought that up on the show, and I felt like no one was really talking about it, and then like about a week later, it kind of like blew up. But like I like I don't know, man. Like I've seen DC like do some real horrid shit to some of their characters, and like to me, it's like very hard to believe like this was like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Well, I don't know if it's a straw. I think it's just like on top of all the other stuff, people are like, why is this 5G thing happening? What did you do to all these characters that we loved? Now, like one of the most prominent kind of not like I don't know how to say, like not officially shown, but everybody's like everyone's headcanon like couple, including basically the cartoon you just made. You're making that not a thing.
It's officially like they were official. Yeah. Like they're
I didn't know if they official made them.
Yeah, they've been an official thing for like a couple years now. At least since the Amanda Conner run on Harley Quinn. And that's why like that issue was just like, what is this? Because it's like you've already submitted it. It's already canon. It's already established. Like that's why like they try and like pull at your heartstrings in Heroes in Crisis over Ivy and Harley. And it sucks, but like that's the whole entire intent of it.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like the reason they said was he was fired for fostering a poor work environment. So I don't know, unless they're talking about those sidekick characters. Like I don't remember if there's been any actual instances.
I mean, there was that thing with Scott, not Scott, but
it does say in that article though.
Who's that metal guy? Who's that metal artist?
Oh, Greg Capullo.
Yeah, there was like a deleted tweet from Capullo about how he just got like scripts for dark metal or black metal or whatever it's called, and insinuating that they are very late. And he like made a point to say like, do not blame Scott Snyder for this. And so it honestly could be an editor. It could be which is also a Dan DiDio problem, because Dan DiDio should also be like managing all the editors and making sure like all the other publication houses are like running on time.
Oh, I'm seeing here like one of the things that insiders are saying is that like Snyder's death metal thing really countered DiDio's plans for 5G, and that's where maybe a lot of this tension was coming from.
Yeah, I mean that wouldn't be the first time that a Batman creator doing their own thing is being interrupted by a complete total upheaval of DC continuity. Mm-hmm. I mean, like that's what happened to Grant Morrison with his Batman series, and then Batman Incorporated.
Yeah, because they basically like ended it, and then Flashpoint happened.
They didn't even finish it. It went into the New 52, and it made no sense.
Yeah, So yeah, I could see that happening, especially with like the love for Snyder and how he's only hit home runs. Like he hasn't even hit like doubles. Like he's only crushed it with basically every Batman book he's put out.
Yeah, he kind of rocks. He's what got me into like comic books for what it's worth.
Yeah, because
Or,
he's
like, modern comics.
he's kind of Baby Morrison. He's Morrison with less LSD.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Give him a couple years.
And I mean, it's like you also just like look at it's like not only just like the DC brand, but then you also have to like look at the other arms. Like, look what happened to Vertigo. Look what happened to like Wildstorm. Like I mean, sure, like those are other other publications under DC, but I feel like if you're like the chief editorial person in charge of all that, and I'm probably speaking out of my butthole right now, but I assume like you also have like dealings on like what's going on at Vertigo and what's happening at Wildstorm.
I'm sure like I like the idea of even making Black Label a thing, and then the backlash and backpedaling and all that shit probably didn't help. And then like having to like that one Batman issue and backpedaling on that, and this the ugliness of having 85 different things on one label, like DC Black presents Joe Hill's blah blah blah.
And Black Label finally having an identity of its own, because like Black Label launching had so many books that were just like
It's all
late,
Batman books.
or it just was like, hey, well, like, someone has an idea, like let's just launch this as its new thing, and then that just kind of like spirals into its own thing. But like it took forever for it to kind of get any legs of its own.
Yeah, which it does now, and it's like, oh, this is the place where you kind of do sort of Elseworld, like more mature Elseworld book, which is cool. But I don't know why you need to get rid of Vertigo and Wildstorm. Like when the last time that was coming out, it was awesome, but then it just vanished. Like it's just done.
Well, you get rid of Vertigo because Image kind of devoured the talent of Vertigo. It's like how many books that were released in Image in the 2000s like could have been like a top tier Vertigo book, but Vertigo didn't want to pay the people the right money and give them the licenses and all this other bullshit, so they went to Image. So and that's not to say that Vertigo didn't have good stuff in the 2000s. Like you still had Fables going on, you had Y still going on, Sweet Tooth, Northlanders, but there was definitely like a lack of high tier Vertigo books towards the end of like that line.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and it did. Us talking just reminded me of like another comic book thing that I forgot happened. It's just the Lock and Key in the Sandman universe was announced.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh yeah,
I'm excited for that actually.
So I think it's like a weird crossover label because like it's the Sandman stuff is in. I don't think it might be Black Label now, but it's like it's like Neil Gaiman's Sandman universe.
It's like the Sandman universe,
but it's also sort of in DC continuity because Constantine is there and Dream showed up in Metal. So I think it's like kind of like sideways connected. So, but it's interesting that they're going to do a Lock and Key book. But yeah, like, oh no, this was a huge piece of news, but we don't know the future where everything's going to go.
But yeah, I don't know, man. It's just, I feel like, the 2000s were like not the best for both DC and Marvel. And
as we saw last week.
Yeah, right. I mean, like for every identity crisis that DC put out in the 2000s, there was like a Trouble or a Marvel or Marvel. And that's not to say that like everything that Dan Didio like had his hands in was probably bad, but I just think that over the span of since 2005, it's just like there's just like a very reactionary like reset button, or like trying to get things back to like what their like self-identified like golden era of DC is.
Well, I think that's the whole problem. Is like the idea of doing New 52 and not just sticking with it, but the fact that they backpedaled, like it took them a while, but and then the way they did it, and then the Doomsday Clock to then like reset it, sort of, kind of. We don't even know if that's in continuity.
And they're about to reset it again.
But the New 52 wasn't even a reset. Like it was a reset, like halfways because they still like acted like
It was a
like,
reset for like all but like 3 characters.
yeah, like Batman, Green Lantern, and like I don't know. I think there was like one other character,
Flash?
but it was like
Superman?
No,
No,
Superman
was
got
completely
super
redone.
changed. Yeah, but
I think
it
it was like Flash, but like Batman was like he got DH, but everything still happened. It's like so all of his
okay.
history happened in like 5 years, and that's where they had the problem with like the Robins. It's like so Dick Grayson was Robin for what like a year and a half, and then joined the Teen Titans and became Nightwing, and Jason Todd was Robin for like 6 months before he died, and then he takes 6 months of having no Robin, and then Tim Drake's there for like 6 months, and then Damian shows up.
And them just like keep on backtracking, like, well, this event happened, well, this event happened, all this happened. I'm like, wait, I thought this was supposed to be like a brand new thing for new readers. Like, it's like honestly, it should have just been Ultimate Comics DC, like where they just do like this hard boot reset where like everything's brand new, where it's starting new and going on from there. But it was like over time they just kept on cherry picking like certain things. Like, well, this happened, well, this happened, and it's like if you know. It's like, well, if this thing can come back, like, well, why can't this thing that I like can't come back?
Yeah,
And it looked like they kind of like ride the ship with Rebirth, but then Johns kind of moves on, and then you announce Doomsday Clock, and that takes 2 years, and then in between that you have Heroes in Crisis and all this bullshit with Wally West, who's now Dr. Manhattan and Metron.
and
Because I don't know.
he's the most powerful character in existence.
Because like that's what people wanted, right? Was Wally West to be back and be Dr. Manhattan and not Wally West. It's like, why would fans want Wally West to be Wally West anymore? You know?
Yeah, the character most people reading comics like their Flash. But yeah, it's
and
just
also
like
just like a constant spit in my face about like it's like, oh, you like Ryan Troy? Well, guess what? We're gonna kill him and put him in a matchbox and send him to Dwarf Star, or or like the Teen Titan comic where Zan and Jan are mauled by a fucking dog. It's just like it's like now I'm just remembering all these really bad things that happened at DC, and it's just I want them to be good. I like a lot of DC comics. I like a lot of DC characters, and it's just there needs to be someone in control of the ship, someone who knows like what they're doing, and like I don't know if Jim Lee is like the guy that you need in 2020 to be head of DC to make it like a company going forward.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they get somebody that's like new blood in. But apparently I'm reading that like they're still going along with 5G.
Yes, because if that fails, Marvel's definitely going to buy DC Comics.
Yeah, 5G.
I feel like it's a weird tie into AT&T.
Yeah, 5G. You know that comic that's coming out on Free Comic Day, written by Scott Lobdell in the year of our Lord 2020.
5G? You mean like the phone thing? No wonder it's being released by Warner.
Is it gonna make my phone faster?
I get to read comics and get a fast phone. What a revelation!
Wow. Thanks, Dan.
So we'll have to wait and see. That is supposed to be in October, I think, that releases. Like the full rebrand 5G thing. But Generation 1 comes out on Free Comic.
We should probably know about it by March, right? Because like the solicitation, it's like that Free Comic Day comes out in March or in May, but then if there's going to be like first couple of books, those will be out in June, and those books.
No, it says it's launching October.
So
that Free Comic Day book is a tease.
Sure, it's like launching in March, in October, but like I guarantee you that there'll be like some book that is like in a preview where they're just like, hey, like spiraling out of like the events of Scott Lobdell's 5G. Here's like, and then we'll get like a better idea for it. And also like C2E2 and Emerald City are coming up pretty soon. DC, I assume will have panels at both those places.
If the coronavirus doesn't scare people off.
I mean, like I'll be at Emerald City, so I mean, like if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. There's nothing you can really do about it.
No, I know.
No, like there were like people in our company in our like fan Discord who were just like, everyone be careful for con season. I'm like, hey man, go get your shot and stay healthy and wash your hands. That's all you can do.
Yeah, and just like keep an eye out for stuff. I know, like, I got an email from like the school system, like, oh, we're setting up all these plans in place, and if you're sick, just stay home.
This has been your friendly Now You Know PSA from And Now Comics.
Stay safe.
Na.
So do you want to talk about our comic that we read this week or / watched?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, real quick, if to talk about like other books we've read this week.
Okay.
Did you read X-Men?
No, I forgot. I have this weird thing where I black out, but I do know that there was like I was reading part of it. The Douglas there when Cyclops goes to see Douglas and Warlock is there.
Like Warlock's just sitting in a chair.
Yeah, and then
And
everyone was saying, yeah, he's just like, wait, is that? Oh wait, he's not there. I was like, all right, that's a thing.
Well, I mean, we've kind of noticed Warlock being on Krakoa and like little winks and nods at certain points throughout, like Hoxpox and
because also in that image, Doug's arm is normal, and then when it cuts back, he has the Warlock arm, which they still have not explained. But then like I saw everybody was talking about like the sex stuff, but maybe I didn't get to that part.
I mean, like that's at the very beginning. The very beginning of the book is basically just Scott and Scott and Wolverine and them talking about like going out on a family vacation, and it's like very
Oh,
heavily
is that what they
implied.
call it now?
And it's very heavily implied that Scott and Wolverine share the same bed because Wolverine like makes like the bed too hot or whatever. It's funny, but
Yeah.
I won't go super into it. But there are implications. Like the big talking point of the book, I feel like, is about the resurrection process, what it is, how the other characters are reacting to it, especially like a character like Nightcrawler, who is devoutly religious, and the religious applications of resurrection, and how this also works into M Day, and how Scarlet Witch is viewed upon the Krakoan people.
It's like a demon. Yeah, I'm flipping through right now.
And yeah, because like also like the way that they explain about Wanda is again Exodus, telling campfire stories to kids. So I feel like that's the only time we ever see Exodus is when he's telling campfire stories, which is like my favorite version of him.
That's where he lives, just at a campfire.
And
also, the
I'm,
fact
like,
that he's the one teaching kids.
And if I'm like kind of like reading the implications of like what it is, like that the resurrection process can give back the abilities of people who lost their abilities during M Day, but they be resetted back to the point before they like lost their mutant power. So they'd be like
their mind, yeah.
Yeah, so they'd be reverted back to like 5 years. And I could be like wrong in that interpretation of it. Like I would have to read it again because this is a very talking heads issue between Cyclops and Nightcrawler.
I'm looking through. Dakin is showed in this, and Selena.
I missed them.
It's when Cyclops and Nightcrawler are walking and talking through a portal. It's like Forge, and then Dakin and Selena are like standing there.
But yeah, it was definitely like, oh, like this is like the philosophical explanations of resurrection and X-Men that I feel like it kind of needed to be addressed for a while. Also, kind of think that it's the first X-Men issue that doesn't have any of the cliff notes.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and then Giant Size X-Men was also like a big silent issue, and it was basically a giant nod to the Grant Morrison issue where you find out that Xavier had a twin, and it's like basically like a 1-for-1. So instead of Jean kissing Scott, it's Jean kissing Wolverine, and like the writing in the Krakoan letters, like outside of like the mental portal that Jean and Emma are in, like says the same like whatever message was in the Morrison issue, and even like the final page reveal of like what's going on with Storm is like a 1-for-1, like almost line for line of like that Morrison issue. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I wanted.
I gotta go get my comics. It's 2 months.
Yeah, I'm like looking through like, oh, I have to like read because there's a lot of like reading in this, but it is interesting. Yeah, I see. I don't understand like the mind. Like, is it their mind from when they were already there?
What issues?
It's X-Men. It's the number 7 I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah.
it's the mind that they've had, but it's in the body from 5 years ago. Because it's like their
Okay.
ultimate. I think it's like from what they said in the old books. It's in the other books. It was like their body at their peak.
Yeah.
And then depending on their mind, because like their mind isn't connected to them missing their powers. It's just their body.
Okay. There is also like some like vague body dysmorphia that Nightcrawler does bring up, so that might also be like a thing that's brought up later.
Mhm.
Is your mind being put into a body that you don't recognize or you don't like.
Yeah, they talked about that in an older book too. Of like they haven't even tried to like experiment by putting somebody in a body that wasn't their own originally.
Yeah.
Because they have no idea what the implications would be.
Well, like, and also it's the whole entire like idea of like if you're teleported like from like point A to point B, it's the person that comes into point B still the person that comes from point A. Like it's like you're dead. Like is the person that comes out of
Yeah.
the egg still you? And it's
It's a
it is what it
philosophical
is.
question. Yeah.
Crawler, the man who like was literally in
fuck.
heaven a couple of years ago, having the implication that's like, oh, I can't die. What does this say about me now? Is it our jobs to make heaven on earth?
But I guess you could
It's-
probably choose to die and like stay dead.
yeah, and be a swashbuckler in heaven.
Also, I guess this also implies that like your mind is your soul. Like there are no soul. Otherwise, there'd be like what, like 80 different of one character. It's like six Cyclopses up there or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole debate. That's a whole other topic right there.
Yeah. But let's go into something not so heavy. Although it does get heavy at times, which is
Not these
Yeah.
issues, though.
Yeah, let's read about some kids getting fucked up.
Yeah, let's talk about the latest arc.
oh god.
I'm actually very far behind on My Hero.
No,
Oh,
so
Oh, okay, I won't
God,
say
okay.
anything.
Yeah, don't. It gets.
I
It
won't.
gets. Whew.
No, shut up. Don't even say that. Just we leave it there.
I mean, like I read X-Men. I assume in superheroes they don't come out,
They
pristine.
don't- yeah, that's a good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what the last thing that like happened was that was like crazy. I don't know.
So okay. So what we're talking about is we're talking about My Hero Academia.
I
Yes.
believe it's Boku no Hero Academia.
thank
listen.
you.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Excuse me.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not that guy.
Please,
So
please don't.
yeah. So it was it is an ongoing manga, is that the correct pronunciation?
Manga
And
as
an
well as
anime.
Anime. The reason why we're doing it is because we are recording this on a Wednesday. The new movie Heroes Rising came out tonight, so we figured this would be a nice little tie-in to tie into the new movie.
Yes. So this is like I would say this is so we read 12 to 21, which is the USJ saga.
Oh wait, did you actually see the movie?
No,
I
wish.
am going Saturday.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Saturday. I basically just like, do all the students like show up in this movie, or is it just like 4 people like
from
movie?
the
It's the
trailer, it
four
looks
fan
like
free.
everyone because it looks like it's a part of the class, and it's
Well, that-
also supposed to be in the future. Like it's past the anime and the manga currently.
Yeah, like they said, I don't know if it takes place like after, like during season 4, but like further away from where season 4 is even in right now. So I have no idea. But
Yeah.
from what I'm hearing, if you're a newbie, you should be able to hop on pretty quickly and easily.
Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna do like the Marvel thing of like, here's everybody, here's the explanation of their power, blah blah blah. But yeah, it looks
Oh.
like it's a training thing on an island for them where there's no other heroes around, like grown-up heroes.
So
And
it's a
then
bunch of
shit
teenagers having fun on an island, but then they have to actually do their jobs.
Yes. So we read issues 12 through 21. Now, I would say some backstory on this.
Yeah, I was
So-
gonna say we should
can I-
probably give some like background info here.
Yeah, I could do a quick synopsis.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of like the world.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. So quick update. So My Hero Academia is basically about a world where, much like our own, except for 80% of the population are born with a ability called a quirk. A quirk is like some kind of like magical power. They range from things very minuscule, like people who can like you know have their eyes come out of their head, or have or do like very kind of simple things, to people who can like have the sweat of their body become explosive, and everything in between. The story focuses on this young boy named Deku, who is one.
We forgot to mention that people use these powers, and it brings about the Age of Heroes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So there's also the Age of, like, the Marvel or DC universe. Like, people use their quirks to become heroes, or villains. And to teach people, there are schools where people can learn how to use their abilities to become good heroes.
Can I cut in for a second here?
Yeah.
So one of the things to me that I find the most interesting is actually the way they built like Hero Society. So one, it's like kind of X-Men, but instead of them being a minority, they're the vast majority, like you said, John. Also, the fact that there are people with powers, their powers kind of change the way jobs are done. So a lot of like your quirks kind of change, like kind of push you towards specific jobs. And so a lot of things are based on people with these quirks. So heroes kind of are the major crime fighters, while cops just kind of arrest people and then become like jailers.
They're more of like the paperwork people. They deal with the infrastructure and like the basic upkeep, and the heroes do the actual catching.
Yeah, they're the ones that provide backup support, and
because you also have to remember, like, the police also have quirks of their own. And
yes, but usually they're lower level quirks, like.
And there's everybody's favorite cop, Doghead.
Yeah, Doghead.
Never not talk about Doghead.
But it's not even just crime fighting. It's like they like, I think this is like kind of like the real fascinating thing about My Hero Academia, is that they kind of like borrow like a little bit of like stuff from like the Marvel universe with damage control. Like, they're like people who use their quirks to help build buildings, clear debris, like do these other things. There are people who have their quirk be like maybe water based or fire based, who become firefighters.
I just say the difference compared to like the X-Men is like the abilities people have or their quirks are sometimes way more body changing. It's more cartoonish. Like some people, like there are like characters in like Marvel and like in superhero stuff that are like crazy, but like people in this are like, there's Gang Orca, who's like his power is Orca-ness.
Yeah, which and you had like Marvel kind of explore, Chris Claremont kind of explore that with the Morlocks, where the Morlocks were basically mutants who were not pretty, and then you had Morrison kind of explore that even more with characters like Glob Herman, and Beak and Zorn. But it's like you have like a lot of these characters who show up within My Hero Academia, like my favorite character, Tsuyu Asui, whose whole entire power is she's a frog.
She's Frog Girl.
Yeah, she's a frog, and that's her whole power set. You have like this guy who has like all these appendages that he can like make eyeballs and mouths, and it's kind of grotesque. But
yeah, he can. I think his thing, how they explain, is like he can grow extra limbs and then control what things come out on the limbs. So he can be hands, eyes, ears, mouths, and I think other things. He just never does them.
But
and
it's
their
like
quirks evolve too.
But it's like you have like archetypical character designs that would be kind of designed as being like ugly or villainous or whatever, but like they change them in such a way that they make them either heroes and like they're like more kind of heroic like looking characters who are villains, and it's all about like the backstory of the characters and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because like the acid girl barely looks human. She looks like a bug. She's pink with like a pink fro and has antenna and bug eyes.
And I love her. She's great.
Yeah. I do also want to say, so like the other part of the society works is that there is a order of who is the highest level hero, and that determines it's determined not just by your heroism, but by your popularity. And that is how you kind of get paid in this world. And get sponsorships and stuff.
And our number one hero is the symbol of peace, All Might.
So, and that's also like kind of like a really interesting thing about superheroes being not only like heroes, but being also celebrities.
Like, celebrities and like corporatized in a way.
It's Marvel Ultimates all over again.
I was gonna say it's like The Boys, but not as fucked up.
Also it's like Tiger and Bunny if you're more of like into anime, where you have like governments and companies
And
sponsorship.
sponsors, yeah.
So it's like you have like hero as a hero and hero as also a hero and celebrity
Yeah,
and
it's like every hero is Booster Gold.
yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
So
We are all
this whole world is basically centered around Deku, who's like this boy who is one of the 20% of people who do not have a core. He looks up to the number one hero, who's All Might, who's basically Superman, who smiles a lot and wants
announces
to
that he's here.
basically like wants to do whatever he can to be a hero. And through some shenanigans that happen with Deku trying to save like a classmate, All Might sees the potential in Deku in being a great hero. And picks Deku as basically the inheritor of All Might's power. A power called All for One, which is a ability that's basically transferred into each new user, and the power grows exponentially with each new person that's traded on upon.
Yes.
So the show is basically about Deku inheriting this power, going to superhero school like Sky High. You meet a bunch of quirky classmates, and you get to basically see Deku become the greatest hero that has ever been known.
Yeah, he narrates the show. I don't think he narrates the manga.
He
But
does.
he narrates the show in like a third person, and this is my journey into becoming the greatest hero of all time.
Yeah.
He does narrate it.
Okay, maybe I just didn't notice it, but yeah, I would say like the main classmates, at least we'll go through like everybody, but like specifically the other characters is Bakugo is kind of his Vegeta.
Basically class jock.
I don't know if I would call him a jock. He's more
Yeah.
like the rebel bad boy guy.
He's top of the class, or like him and Deku are childhood friends. Bakugo
Quote,
is top of the class, like basically pegged to be one of the best heroes, like earmarked for greatness. It's like
Which we should say, yeah. Also, he's the one that has his sweat is nitroglycerin.
Yeah.
He also yells more than Vegeta and louder.
Yes.
And better.
But that's also like every character's like quirk kind of matches their personality. So yeah. So Deku's like, I would say like the one for all would just be like trying to like, how would you describe it? Just like kind of pure super strength.
I mean, he's pure Parker.
Super strength.
But it's not like it's agility based on his strength, kind of. Like everything is just like his muscles and his like inner power are kind of just all like kind of physical strength.
Yeah, and
So
it has to be controlled because otherwise he's going to completely just his body will like not be able to withstand it unless he controls it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to like the other big characters would be I keep forgetting all their names. The
like
what's the
Uraraka?
Yeah, there's
Uraraka.
Go with Uraraka first.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so she's her hero because they also have hero names. Her hero name's like
Uravity.
And she can touch stuff and kind of take away their gravity, including herself, and then she can turn it back on.
Yeah. Also, by the way, like they also just all have like really great hero names. Like Uravity is like a really just kind of like fun take on that.
She's also Deku's girl. I don't care what the show has said at this point.
No, I feel like they definitely have.
No,
like
they
a
heavily imply that.
They heavily imply that. I know she said she has to wait because she wants to be a hero too, which is distracting.
Yeah. Oh, they've heavily implied that they are. At least she is very into him specifically.
There's like there's Tenya Ida, who is the son, or who's like
the brother.
His brother is like a really famous hero. He's like very stoic. He's like kind of like head of the class, smart guy, but like a really good like. It's like he like wants to help out like everyone become like the best hero they could possibly be.
He's the not teacher's pet, but he's like the super student kind of character.
Yes.
And yeah, his entire family, and they all have. So another big thing, which goes to another character, is quirks are genetic. So he has basically the same quirk as his brother and his father, which is he has kind of like jet engines in his calves,
which is kind of cool, honestly.
So he can like run super fast and kick super hard. And then I would say the genetic thing, because I think goes to one of the other major, especially like powerhouses, is what the hell's his name? Todoroki, who is fire and ice, but we don't see fire for a very long time.
And his father is the number 2 superhero right behind All Might, so.
Yes.
And he's basically a guy who can create ice and create fire. Through one hand he can create ice, and the other hand he can create fire.
Yes, which I think also goes to like the cool things about like how deep this world is because his father married a woman because of her quirks, her quirk ability, and that is something they say like happens often, like these marriages to like create genetic offspring.
Yeah,
so he has
like create eugenics to create him.
Yes, because they had 5 total children. He is the youngest, and he's the only one that got both quirks. I think all the other ones got like shittier ones of one or the other.
Shittier is debatable.
I don't know. Do we even see what the other ones really can do?
You meet 2 of them. There's
because one of them
siblings.
One of them is dead, and then there's the other 2. There's a boy and a girl, but we never actually see them. I don't think use their.
We've seen the girl when he wants to go visit his mom.
And you will see.
You see one of his older brother, and then the other older brother dead.
My theory is that he's one of the League of Villain people, but that's a different story for a different time.
Oh, that would be interesting if he's that other character.
Yeah, he's the fire one. I can't remember his name right now, but he has that blue fire.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah, no, a little bit.
I never thought about that
for an early character, but that's what I think happens.
And I would say before we get into the story, the other big character that we haven't talked about is their homeroom teacher.
Oh my god, he's my favorite. Holy shit,
who's basically like
which one?
Eraserhead.
Yeah.
I was gonna go say one more big one was Kirishima, because he seems to be getting a little more prominence, especially in the anime recently.
Like in the
yes.
Well, he picks up later.
So let's just like kind of like handle like the characters are pretty big for like at least this arc.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say Eraserhead is like a huge character for this. So he has an awesome power, which is he can, while his eyes are open and if he's looking at someone, he can turn off their quirk. Otherwise, he's just a dude.
But if he blinks, that power will go back to the user.
So he's like kind of always exhausted, and his eyes are jacked up, and he's dressed kind of like a emo ninja.
And then like a really quick like scatter shot. There's Suya Asui, who has the powers of a frog. There's Momo, who
Rozu.
Yeah, like I'm still okay, so she's basically kind of like an alchemist who can, if she knows the genetic makeup of a thing that she wants to make, she can use like the metabolism in her body to create it.
So I have it right here from the manga itself.
Yeah, because it's in one of these issues. Because that's the other thing that's cool. Throughout the issues, they're like, "Oh, this is who this is, and this is their power set."
Okay, so it says, and I quote, her quirk is creation. She can create anything as long as it's not living, but she needs to understand the object's chemical makeup first. Knowledge is her power.
Yeah, which, if you, like, the really cool thing about her page, like, in the book, is the writer for My Hero Academia originally explained that Momo was going to be a teacher character, and then he, like, kind of, like, realized, like, how overpowered her character would be, so he made her a student. So basically she has like this really great power, but since she's a student, she's like not very well equipped to like know exactly like kind of like how it works.
Yes, and, which they do well in the stories of like dealing with like her issues with her like her power as well, because there are other characters also with metabolism powers, because like what's the guy's name, like Sugar Man or something?
Yeah, Sugar Rush,
yeah.
And then the last 3 are Denki Kaminari, who can control lightning, but if he exerts himself too much, he becomes super stupid. There's
I'm sorry, that's my favorite side effect.
And the control lightning is kind of, it's not even that, he can like create electricity.
Yeah,
he can't control it.
There's Kiryoka Jiro, who she can basically like she has like little danglies on her ears that are like headphones. And
headphone jacks.
And she could like put them into walls. You could hear people on the other side and use them for like other different purposes.
They're also like kind of weapons too.
Yep. And then finally, there's Minoru Minata, who is a small, annoying boy who has like these little pumps on his head that he can take off and then throw them, and they basically stick people to the wall.
Except for him, they reject him, and then he pulls them off too fast. He starts to bleed, and he's super tiny, and he's basically Kid Master Roshi.
Yeah.
But he's like way more obvious about, like, there's this great panel he has with Sue where he like touches a boob and then she starts drowning him.
Yeah. He's
And
comedy
those-
relief for the most part.
And those are the important characters for this arc.
Yay.
So I don't know if we'll get through the whole thing, but like let's as we work our way through it. So issue 12 is kind of like the setup for where the arc is going to take place. So it's kind of a lot of like character development where the kids are going to elect a class president, and it's Momo and Deku. And
He's like, wait, who voted for me?
Yeah, because everyone voted for themselves except for two people. And someone else voted for Momo, and two people voted for Deku, which was himself. And I'm so bad, like with some of the character names. What's the one with the glasses?
Ida,
voted for him. I can't remember who the third. Uraka voted for him, so that's why he won. That somebody attacks the school, and so there's an emergency, and Ida kind of takes control of the situation. He has Uraka touch him so he can float, and then uses his power to kind of jump over everybody and gets everyone's attention. And it's like everything's fine, just go out here orderly. And Deku is just like, yeah, you're the one that should be the class leader, so they do that.
should point out the reason why there was such a big crowd was because the media has found out that All Might is going to be teaching at UA, so they've started to get really nosy and swarm the school.
Oh, I guess that's another thing we should say. So All Might passed his powers to Deku because he is gravely injured and
dying.
I don't know if he's dying. He's like specifically very injured, so he cannot maintain his form for as long. So can no longer maintain being the symbol of peace. And after he shares his power with Deku, he is slowly losing his power as Deku gains his. And that is why he took the teaching job, to train someone to be his, what would you call that?
It's like one for one is being transferred.
Mm-hmm. And so there was an attack, and like, so the principal, who's an interesting character, is a talking mouse. And basically says like, oh, the reporters didn't do this, and the entire wall is disintegrated. And in the scene earlier, there was a shadowy figure with gray hair standing with all of the reporters, and that is
I missed that.
Yeah, he's there. He's in the crowd.
Is that's
yeah.
Is that who I think it's supposed to be?
Yeah, it's the guy with the hands. I'm so bad.
Yeah. Yeah,
no,
Ant-Man.
Rocky. I thought it was one for all for some reason.
No. It's the kid.
Okay, Rocky then.
Yes. So in the next issue, we get reintroduced, which to like the new generation of heroes, which is was it Kamui Lady Mountain?
Mount Lady.
Mount Lady. Go.
She's great. She's a giant lady.
Yeah,
Or she's a lady. She's a
Hunter
lady.
will love it.
She's a really cool lady who becomes a giant lady.
She's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
She is, and if Hunter heard about this, he'd be like, "Wait, what? Where can I sign up?"
Good.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, my dog was just like making noise. Did you say so? All Might comes in, takes out like the bad guy, and then heads on his way to school. He has the conversation with Deku, which they kind of talk about the consequences of everything. It's like you can't tell anybody about this. But then Deku kind of reveals that he basically hinted to Bakugo that
It's like, hey man, you can't be mad at me because you didn't tell me about this before. So, but going forward, I won't.
Yeah. And so he's like, oh, I got it from someone else, which will play down the line. He's like, all right. So they go to their class, and basically their teacher tells them they're going to a special thing where they're going to rescue training. So this is where they're going to they put on their hero uniforms, which the school makes them, and they go and train at the, did they say, what's the name of the building? I'm trying to look for it.
I think it's the USJ or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's the USJ. I was trying to see what that stood for.
United States of Justice.
No. There's a reason why they call it USJ. It's Unforeseen Simulation Joint, but they all call it Universal Studios Japan.
Because it makes heroes.
Yep. So our kids ride on the bus.
Poor Ida tries to like organize everyone into like seating arrangements, and it's a different kind of bus.
Yeah, isn't there like also a point where like Suyu is basically just like, oh man, isn't it like kind of interesting that Deku has the same powers as All Might?
Yes, and he's like, oh, and he's like,
yeah, he's like, ah.
And everyone starts clowning on Bakugo.
Yeah, because Bakugo is just like a giant douche. Like he's at an 11 at all times. Like he never tones it down ever. He's just always screaming.
Also, I can't help but every time I read the voices now, it's the anime. It's dubbed.
Yes. Well, the voice acting is great in the show.
The guy who plays Bakugo is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually don't like English Deku at all.
Oh, I just listen to the Japanese. I don't really like the English stuff that much.
I like the dub. I don't like
Deku. Yeah, he's like the only one I don't have I kind of have a problem with, but everyone else I think is.
Yeah. So they get to the school, they get to the place, and this is where we're introduced to one of the big characters in this, which is 13. And basically 13 tells us that the place has different areas and it's to train in all different rescue missions. And 13 is basically a person in a spacesuit, and their quirk is called Black Hole because they are basically a living black hole. And is 13 a guy in the manga? Because I'm pretty sure it's a woman in the anime. At least in the Japanese.
I don't think they ever specified. In the dub, it's a woman, I believe.
Yeah.
If they what?
If 13 is a male or woman. It's definitely a woman in the anime. But I feel like in one of the breakdowns, they refer to 13 as a guy. In the manga.
Okay. I just something right here where it's right before chapter 14. It's like a little drawing by the creator, and it's like a behind the scenes. And he refers to him as his. He's referring him in the he persona.
He's a black hole.
Yes, but in anime it's a she. All right, so yeah, they're at the point now where Aizawa wonders where's All Might, and during his morning commute, it seems that All Might reaches a limit because he saved 3 heroes in quick succession, so he will not be at the training as he was supposed to. And anyway, they get more information about the rescue training, and this is where I really like the world building and how that establishes everything. And then the issue ends with a giant portal opening up, and a dude with hands all over kind of pops out. And
I love Hand Man.
Yeah, handsy hands man.
Which, when you get to his origins, the hands are like explained really well and fucked up.
Was that in the manga or was that in the anime? Because I'm all caught up in the anime, not the manga.
I think it was in the manga. I don't think they went over in the anime yet. Okay. I think it comes up in the next saga in the anime.
Okay.
But yeah, he comes through, and then a whole shit ton of villains, including one that's a giant black bird-looking face with a exposed brain.
Wait till we get to him.
And so they attack. So Eraserhead erases some of them, and he tells the kids to get back. And then the person with the teleporting abilities teleports a bunch of the kids all over the place, and that is where it ends.
Oh, I kind of saw it as she tells them that they're all villains, and we get some monologuing, and that's where that ends. Now we're on 15, and then they get transported. Yeah, it's kind of like at the end of it. Basically, they want to kill the bad guy wants to kill. It says maybe if I kill a bunch of kids, All Might will show up. That's where 13 ended. Gotcha. And so 14 is basically they want to kill the symbol of peace, and they split up with the teleporter's power, split up the kids into different areas. And this is where their teachers basically says no good hero has one trick, which is it's not just that he can erase people's powers. He is basically a ninja with these binding I can't remember what they call them. It's like a binding cloth. Oh, yeah, it's not the tape guy, because I know there's a guy in.
No, he has his own thing because another character ends up using it later. But yeah, he has this binding thing that people can't break out of that he basically fights with. And he's basically a ninja, and he's taking people out left and right. But yes, the kids are teleported away. And then the guy in charge is this gray-haired guy with these face. So he has a face he has a hand on his face, a hand on the back of his head, 2 hands on his throat and 2 hands on his shoulders, which is creepy as hell. And he's basically just like, I hate pro heroes. I didn't think they would be here. And then the one guy, so the teleporter is like this ethereal black figure and says, greetings, we're the League of Villains. And, we're here to go to the school to end the life. They're here to kill All Might.
Yeah, we're here to cause mayhem. Suck it.
Yeah, which I do like. And it's Kuragiri is the teleporter. I think it's his name. He has like a suit on underneath, which you kind of see at points. He has like a 3-piece suit on, but immediately Bakugo and oh my god, what the hell's his name? The armor guy go to strike the shadow, but he teleports. And 13 tries to suck it in, and this is where everybody gets teleported. Deku, Sui, and what the hell's his name? Mineta are teleported to Mineta are teleported to like a water area, and Sui saves Deku because he can't do shit underwater. And this is where like Mineta is basically like, we're just kids, like we can't do all this, and they're on a boat and they're being surrounded, and this is where we get like kind of Deku.
I think it's also like worth noting that Mineta is like the one character kind of like throughout the series that seems very out of his depth, like knows that he's out of his depth, kind of is like only really want to be a hero for like
women,
the chicks.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, kind of like an interesting thing, at least a little bit, that he's like everyone else has like these great like
driving
aspirations,
forces,
to be heroes, and he's just like the one that's like still kind of like trying to learn how to be capable, and, or at least even have the confidence to be that.
Yeah, he's also the most childish, and he's physically the weakest of the group because he's very tiny. But while this is going on, like Deku's just like, oh, like they're here for a specific reason. They want to kill All Might, but then he also kind of figures out like, oh, they obviously have no idea what our quirks are, because why would they put like Sui? Is it Sui or Sue? How do you pronounce it? Suyu into like a water area. And then we cut to kind of seeing where everybody else is. So it's Bakugo and the armor guy are in one place.
Kirishima.
Kirishima. And then there's so many characters. I'm so bad at all their names. The half and half guy is by himself.
Todoroki is all by himself, and he just ices all his villains immediately. It's kind of a cool thing.
Because like that's also like the other thing is like Todoroki is like easily like probably like him and Bakugo
hero level
are like the most capable pro level heroes among the students.
Well, they also say there's 3 members of their class who didn't have to take the entrance exam. It's Todoroki, Momo, which it's her, Jiro, and the electric kid. And who was the other person that didn't have to take the entrance exam?
If I were to probably guess,
was it the Shadow Kid?
I have a good. I think he probably.
Yeah, because he's like super OP too.
Yeah.
So
have you ever played the video game?
No.
It's ridiculous trying to fight him in the game.
Yeah, because his power is crazy, but he's not like in this at all. So those are the people that are split up. Everybody else is up at the front with Eraserhead, who's trying to take down. He's taking down a bunch of the low levels, and this is where Deku's like, we have to help fight. There's really not enough of them. There's not like Eraserhead and 13 can't take them all on by themselves.
Exactly.
Yep. And then when we jump to 15, this is where we get like kind of a little bit more backstory stuff with All Might. So he's talking to the principal, and it's like, oh, you're supposed to go there.
This principal, man.
Oh, he gets to be. It's like I'm a mouse, a dog, or yeah. I believe they confirmed that he is actually a mouse. He's not a person. He's like he had been experimented on and like made more intelligent, but he is actually a mouse.
That's fantastic.
But this is also where they talk about the time limit, I believe. So All Might only has 3 hours a day that he can be like full powered. And so he wasted a bit of that in the morning, taking down that one villain. And that is why he's running late to meet them at the USJ, which we cut back to, and there's all this fighting. And then the teleporter 13 tries to suck him in, but like it doesn't work. And we cut back to Deku, and he's basically explaining that like they have no idea what our quirks are. We can have a plan, and that's why they're just sitting in the water because they don't know what the hell we're doing. But that's only going to last for so long. And this is where the other two kind of explain their quirks to him so that he can formulate a plan. So I'm still what's if Froppy, which is the frog girl.
Yeah, just call her a superhero name.
It's so much easier.
Sue is her real name. Froppy is her
Suyu.
superhero.
I'm sorry.
Go by Suyu.
Suyu Asui, or Suyu Asui best character, or hey, best character Suyu Asui.
Yeah. So yeah, Asui or Froppy, so she can excrete poisonous fluid, but it really only stings a little. Her tongue can stretch 20 meters, and she can stick to walls. And she could also spit up her stomach to clean it, and she can jump really high.
Yeah, her powers, frog. Can a frog do
Yes.
it? She can do it.
And then basically Deku's like, my quirk is a double-edged sword. It's super powerful, but it injures myself. And I like that Mineta's like like he's just like kind of turned on. He's like, yeah, I can.
Pervert. Mineta is lovable, but the boy's a pervert.
Yeah, and he's
I don't even think he's like that lovable, man.
He's kind of a douche.
Okay. In hindsight, like you think he's lovable, fair enough. You think he's lovable, and then he gets worse.
I just love his character design because it doesn't like it purposely doesn't hit everybody else.
He has like a really great character design.
Yeah, he looks like a Simpsons character almost. But he shows like, oh, I can stick them off and I can take them off, but no one else, and that's like it. And he's like, I'm so worthless. How are we going to do this? And then the people attack the ship, and then we just go to. He just starts ripping off the balls and chucking them into the water, and he's like. And Deku's like, don't panic, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, they don't want to touch the things. And Deku kind of is like, oh shit, like I have a plan. And he's like, oh, I'm going to jump into the water and like smash it so that everyone kind of explodes. And there's like a thing in the middle. But in doing this, he wrecks his middle finger on his one hand. And then Mineta is still throwing all the balls around. And so because then everyone's getting sucked back towards the middle where there was the void, they're all sticking to each other. And then Froppy takes them out of there, and they defeated all of the villains. Yeah, Mineta's 108 centimeters, so he's like 3.5 feet tall.
And he comes talking around about lines that were written for him, such as, I wish I had gotten to grope Yazu Boobarozus before I died.
So in the next issue, they're like, Deku's hand's like jacked up because of his finger.
Flipping too many birds around all these villains.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember. He takes something and wraps his hand up. I don't even know. What is it?
Cloth.
Yeah, he just takes a cloth.
Kind of cloth.
And then this is where they see Eraserhead is fighting. And then we get a map of like area. So, the bird guy is Tokiyama and Koda. They haven't been seen. So they're in like the windstorm, like the wind, like bad weather rescue zone. Baku and Kirishima are in like the collapsed building zone. Todoroki is in a landslide zone. Kamari, Jiro, and Yaoyorozu are in the mountain zone. Ojiro, who we haven't talked about, is in the conflagration. Right? Yeah, he's the tail one. He hasn't done anything. And Oyoyama, who we haven't talked about, who has the belly button laser, and Hakakuri, who's invisible. They don't know where the hell they are. Todoroki took out everybody, so he starts moving towards where everybody else is. He basically says like, oh, like you're gonna have frostbite if you don't warm up or something. And I don't remember if this is where we get like the downside of his ability yet.
I don't think it is yet. No.
Yeah. And then we cut to where Jiro and Yozo. I don't like it. You pronounce all the names.
Which one are we talking about here? Oh, we're talking about Yaoyorozu, Jiro, and Kaminari.
Yeah, so they're like in a group and they're getting attacked and they don't know what to do. And they're just like, this is where like, oh, they're explaining all their powers. And he's like, yeah, I can only like cover myself in electricity. I can't defend you guys. And if I shoot it out, I can't control it. And so Jiro just uses him as like a stun gun and just like start kicking him into people. It's like, oh, hey, look, it actually worked really good.
Yaoyorozu is the one who makes the insulated blanket.
Yeah, so she makes an insulated blanket to cover her and Jiro while basically the other guy just like blows his fuse. and which he does. And then when they come out, I like both in the anime and in the anime she uses her arms, but in the manga it's just the word bubbles. But her entire clothes are like blown off, and her tits are out. And they're like, "Oh my god! Like you have motor malfunction." Everybody's brains are fried, so they don't see. And then the kid, Kamari's thing is like he like fries his brain, his like
He's an idiot
neurons
now for a little bit.
Yes, so he doesn't
like
even know.
overexert himself.
But like he has this whole thing in the anime where he just goes, yeah, yeah. And it's really funny. Like it's the facial expression and the noise that you keep hearing.
And then we find out like who the boss is, and him and Eraserhead are having a fight, and the boss is counting down because he's like, "Oh, you can only leave your eyes open for so long," and he's trying to figure out how long it is. And this is where we see like, oh, Eraserhead ends up blinking, and we see the bad guy's ability, which is awesome. So he catches Eraserhead's fist, and like his skin starts breaking apart.
He has the power to like disintegrate him.
Yes. And so Eraserhead punches him with his other hand and kind of gets away, but in doing so is like injured by a couple of other villains, so he's pretty hurt at this point. And then the giant black monster thing comes in. And then we have 13 gets taken out by the teleporter guy because he basically opens a portal like right behind 13 and breaks the suit, so they can't really control themselves, and is like kind of using it as like a way to attack the kids. But 13 is like, all right, I'll handle this, and tells the glasses kid to go like and get help because he's the fastest one there. So basically the rest of the students defend him while he makes his way, and he kind of hates himself because he's like, I'm like running like a coward. And while this is going on, we cut to Deku and his group see that Eraserhead's arm is basically twisted by the giant monster that is referred to as a Nomu, and it's the anti-symbol of peace. And the main villain basically says that it's bioengineered, which is a huge part of the story. Oh man! To jump to 17, Bakugo and Kirishima are like busting those guys, busting up some villains, and like kind of cutting around to all the different teams. And Urahaka helps the one guy get out, and Eraserhead is basically about to die, and without even being like really feeling it, is completely out cold. And this is where we learn the villain's name, which is Tamaru Shigaraki.
Yes, I just call him Shigaraki. I call him mostly by their last names.
And the teleporter guy shows up. It's like, oh, we've taken out all the students that were up there, but one of them escaped. And Shigaraki's like, oh, and he's kind of like thinking and he's scratching his face. And he's basically like, I would kill you, Kurogiri, who's the teleporter, if we were on our way out of here. He's going to get dozens of pros. We don't have that. It's game over. It's basically like we're leaving. And Minata's like, we're saved. And this is when he grabs Froppy's boob, and then she drowns him.
It's such a funny just visual where she's like, wait, what? And then
yeah, because her eyes are normally like kind of cartoonish, like big, wide, with like black pupils, and the black pupils turn white when he grabs her boob.
Yeah.
And yeah, the next panel, she's drowning him. And then this is where Shigaraki sees them and goes to grab to kill Froppy, and Deku, he has his hands almost like basically around her face, was not touching her, and Deku goes to he does touch her, and Eraserhead erases his thing, and then Deku goes to destroy him, and then it cuts to it's the black monster, the Nomu. Yeah, and it does nothing. And then like Froppy saves him, and they're like about wrecked, but in punching him, no injuries happened. And then who pops in? But
quick thing. Have we kind of discussed what Shigaraki's power kind of is?
I was going to do that after like we just finished this. So yeah, Shigaraki's All Might shows up, and that's the end of the issue. But Shigaraki's power is disintegration.
It's like whatever he touches like disintegrates.
Yeah. But he has to put his hand on it specifically.
Like all 5 fingers.
Yes. That's the interesting part I like about the way that the quirks work. So don't know if you guys would mind if we like cut it off there and then we do like the next, what is it, like 5 issues next week?
That's
These
fine.
are 4 issues.
I don't know who's seen the movie this weekend. Are you guys seeing it?
I'm going to try.
Okay,
First
and John,
maybe, but-
Siler, you're definitely probably gonna see it, or
Yeah, maybe Capital.
okay, only because I was gonna say that might help because then we can have a pre-Heroes Rising episode post. We can talk about the movie also.
Mm-hmm. So why don't we cut it off there? At issue, I think it was 17.
Yes, 17 or 18.
Yeah, 17 was the last one we just did.
Okay.
So don't forget to check out all the other shows. You know, tell a friend, 5 stars, click the little bell on YouTube. You can check us out in those places. You guys have any plugs?
Follow me on social media, on Twitter specifically, JamScott193.
Siler? All right. So I guess we will. I guess he has nothing. I don't know. I guess we'll check you guys out next time. Adios.
So I guess I'll join the Great Lakes of